Welcome to Inspired Artist Podcast with me, Porter Singer. I am so grateful to have Grant Ifflander in our midst today. He is my guest. He is a yoga teacher living in Costa Rica who believes in the power of nature. He is here to revive the magical and mystical aspects of life, and he is also the author of How to Use Breathwork to Improve Your Relationships and Enhance Your Sex Life, which is available on Amazon right now. So let's get into it. Here we go. Welcome, Grant. I'm going to unpin. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty awesome. Yeah, it's been a good day so far.
When did you release your book? Is that what it's called, or publish when you're in the book realm? What's the day that it drops called?
The release date,
Release
publishing date,
date.
was May of this year.
Oh, okay, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Was that the product of like one giant inspiration or sort of something that you had been accumulating over several years?
Yeah, it's funny because it took me like 9 months to write it because I got a pretty clear message that this was the title of the book. Like there'd been many book ideas that I've been circulating, being a writer. There'd been many ideas that had come through, and I would start and not finish any of the projects. And so this was like 3 years of me starting and not finishing books, and I had all these like unedited manuscripts, and then finally I got the clear download that this was the name of the book you needed to write on this topic, and and so I started writing, and I wrote and wrote and wrote for 9 months and did some editing and revisions and re-editing, and then I got to a point where I felt like the book was done, and something really hilarious happened, and I just was like, "Oh, I can't publish this. This isn't the material that needs to be in this book." So I took it all out, and then I rewrote the entire thing in like 3 days. And so it was
Whoa.
like this huge, my own sort of mind dump process, and then a absolute revision of all the material into something really succinct, because I wanted the book to get the point across in a very succinct way without bogging people down with like needing to read hundreds of pages. So I was just, all right, let's just make it clear and summarized and straightforward, and I think I got the job done.
That really reminds me a lot of my writing processes. I haven't written a book, but I can totally relate to writing and writing and writing, getting rid of everything, but that sort of taught you how to write it. Like, okay, we're not writing about that. But now I know what this is about, so it comes out a lot clearer, right?
Exactly. Yep.
That's really interesting. So,
Yeah.
but I imagine the practices you have been working on for a while.
Yeah. The breathwork practices that I'm referring to in the book, um, those have been part of my daily thing for probably, let me see, what are 2022, 7 years, going on 7 years of consistency with some particular techniques that I introduce. So I've really gotten to know them quite intimately, you could say.
Where did you get them from, or did you develop them, or how did they come to be in your practice?
God, that's such a good question. Like, where did the family recipe come from? It's
Yeah.
like grandma gave me the spaghetti recipe and put it on like a tablecloth. Um, I met my teacher in 2016. I met one of my teachers in 2015, and then I met my other teacher in 2016. These are both yoga teachers of mine whom have been kind of the reason that I'm where I am today. As I'm sure you can attest, like you meet that person or those people who really influence your path, and so yeah, one of the techniques, um, or all the techniques essentially come down through those lineages.
So, and are these like when you say yoga teachers, are they people that we would know in the West, or are these like yogis sitting on top of the Himalayas, or?
Secret cave dwelling areas. No, there's a yeah. So Steve Harrison is a hatha yoga teacher in England. He has a yoga school called the Yoga Sanctuary, and he is currently building an ashram in southern England. And he's an extraordinary human. I pay homage and respect to him in all of the practices that I do because of how influential he's been for me. And he passed to me one particular technique that I introduced in the book that has just been so effective for me. And I like, I'm one of those people that I like to find something that works and I just don't stray away from it. I don't keep looking for something else. I just like, I find my favorite coffee shop or my favorite brand of something and I just go there, and I
Yeah.
get, because then my energy is free to do other stuff, and I can truly be creative. And so I really like, a lot of the results that I've received from my time practicing has been because of simplicity and consistency.
Mm.
I don't overcomplicate it, and I just stay consistent and keep it simple, and because these methodologies, the yogic technology, it just works. Like it's just interfacing with the human biology and the nervous system in a very direct, very pragmatic, very straightforward way, and I love that. I love things that work. So,
Yeah. So, was there one
mhm.
other person that you wanted to talk about, or?
And then Naga Nath, who is I would consider him. I don't even know if he would call himself my teacher, but he definitely has been a massive, massive teacher of mine and guide, and because he was the one who introduced me to working with the fire, and particularly working and having a relationship with the fire through these are Vedic tantric practices going back very long time, and using the fire as sort of your laboratory, your laboratory to do your own process with.
Do you mean like an actual physical fire, like a puja type thing, or do you mean like a? Okay, I was wondering
Yeah,
if you meant like an
actual
inner fire.
yeah, well, the outer fire of course represents the inner fire, and so you create this relationship between you and the element of fire, but having the live fire there in front of you that you can then bring to life and then feed with fuel from your stash of wood, or if you have cow dung or ghee, you can offer these things to the fire, of course.
Hmm,
Mhm.
interesting. So are these practices ones that you would do sitting down, laying down? I've been introduced to like breath work that's sort of like circular breathing that you have to do kind of laying down. It's like an hour type
Oh,
type
right.
thing, or but I've also like done breath work within the context of a yoga class. Could you give me kind of a feel for what sort of space would be required for
Mhm.
doing this breath work?
Totally. Yeah. And I say this in the book, so I can, it's like there's like consistency there, and what I'm mostly trying to convey to my audience and to people who come to me to learn yoga is that creating a practice that's doable, that you can just have, because an hour laying down and doing breathing, if you do that every day, I don't know if you're going to be able to get up and do your job. You know what I mean? Like, it's just going to take you places that you may not be prepared or want to go. And so I emphasize a gradual opening to the nervous system, a gentle approach that when you combine it with the understanding about what's happening and what you're trying to achieve, it starts to open up the what we would call the sexual energy, but it's really just energy. It's just kundalini energy, the energy of creation and our ability to sense and perceive life as it is and not as we are projecting it to be. And that is possible through working with the breath in yeah, in the way that I am a supporter of. You know, I didn't make it up. It's just something that I have discovered.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, and in working with these teachers, you've kind of concocted your practice. So it seems like you've sort of picked a few things that work really well. Am I understanding it correctly?
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
cool.
I tend to stay close to the script with room to be experimental and explore, because I think that innovation is valuable, and I think like honoring the tradition in a way that's not rigid, you know, like just honoring it, like, oh, like, thanks, Steve, you gave me something that works. Like, I will continue to plow the field that you've prepared for me, knowing that I can also reap my own fruit in that field. And so, does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So if like it came to you to do something slightly different, you would explore that.
Sort of. I kind
Yeah.
of do an inner exploration while the process on the outside is happening, and the inner process starts to shape itself around what my particular needs are. And so, an example of this is like, you know, the technique I introduced in the book is called the double breathing Kriya. You know, we can do it together if you want. It's really a
Sure.
simple.
That's
Are
fun.
you up for it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And if anybody who's listening wants to join, they're welcome to join, but please don't be driving a car. Please be, and you're asked about laying down. I would recommend sitting up. You can be sitting in a chair. Um, and so what I'll suggest is we'll just take 2 minutes to have a little experience together, and then I can talk more about it. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Porter, thank you for joining me in this journey of breath and interacting with our life force. So I'm going to invite you just to close your eyes. Again, this is called the double breathing Kriya. A Kriya is an activity that opens up energy in your body, that allows you to have more energy available to feel and work with. And it's called double breathing because we do a particular thing with our breath, and it sounds like this. So it's twice in through the nose, and then twice through the mouth. Good. Let's keep doing that. Good. Keep going. And as you're going, see if you can add a little tail to the breath. Good. Keep going. We're gonna do maybe like 6 or 7 more. There's a little tail to the inhale, a little tail to the exhale. And then as you're doing this, relax your shoulders, relax your heart, relax your chest, relax your throat and your brain. And then now let your belly inflate. 2 more. Last one. Now we're gonna empty. Exhale completely. Eyes are closed. Yeah, empty the lungs. Beautiful. And now we receive what's called the gathering breath, and we receive a nice slow inhale through your nose. I say receive because you're not taking it, you're just sort of opening and allowing the inhale to wake its way in. Keep inhaling, relaxing your body, allowing the inhale to come into you. And once you get to the top of the inhale breath, you just relax your body, you gently hold the breath. You are now interacting with a larger amount of energy in your body, and you're holding it. This is the Shakti. And you're creating a container around it to hold that Shakti in your system. And so you're relaxed, you're focused, while holding this energy, start to exhale. See if you can kind of keep your body in this expanded space, but you're exhaling now while sort of still opening. And then you just rest in this empty space where the breath has subsided. If you can, you might be able to hold the breath out for a period of time. It might feel really good to do so. And if you were doing this on your own, I would invite you to explore this emptiness. But since we're doing it together, I'll guide you to take a recovery breath. So inhale now, breathe in through your nose. Relax the heart, relax the face, relax the jaw. Breath is held for 3, 2, and we sort of dedicate this energy to something good that we feel in our heart. 1, and exhale, release. You can just rest for a few moments. The breath will return to normal. The eyes can remain closed as you just feel what has taken place in your system. See if you can notice if there's any difference. Saying own the experience that you had. You own your awakening process. You own this movement of life force in your body. A really healthy thing to do. And then again, we dedicate all of this goodness, anything that shifted or moved in you through your Kriya, of course, to a good thing for yourself, for the people in your life, and for, we say, all our relations. May all of our relations benefit from this. Exhale, empty. Just relax your body, and you can gently open your eyes and breathe in when you are ready.
That was awesome. Thank you. I love it when a spontaneous practice emerges on the podcast.
Yeah, it's good to have the experience,
I have a question. I experienced this sort of like worm in my stomach, like pulsing, which I've never experienced before in breath work. Have that ever happened to you? It was like this boom, boom, but it felt like a worm, like it was kind of thin and juicy, like burp, burp.
Like in a good way?
It was pretty weird. It was pretty weird. Yeah.
Do you know what point in the process you really felt it? Was it when I directed you to feel the abdomen?
No, it was after we finished the breath cycle,
Uh-huh.
and I can't remember what the first thing we did. Was it hold the breath?
Yep.
Yeah, it was in that. I think it was in that time. It's very
Okay.
interesting. It was like a pulse in my stomach.
Do you know, did it mimic your heartbeat?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, I don't know what to say about it, but it could
Yeah.
be, the one of the things I point to in the book and that I talk about when we're exploring these practices is we're really, yoga is a process of becoming more aware of what's happening inside of us. And it's, unfortunately in the West, the way that yoga has been commodified is that it becomes about like showmanship and gymnastics, even, which is so far from the point. And our ancient, um, our the practitioners that passed these tools to us wanted us just to know what was happening inside of the self so that we could discern between what is not ours and what is ours. Like that's the whole point of yoga, isolating the soul so that the soul is what is on the center stage, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's kind of the downfall of every organized everything, isn't it? I mean, somebody has like a great inspiration and they're like, I have this amazing truth to tell you about yourself. And they're like, great, what do we eat? What do we wear? How do we make,
Right.
you know, how can
Yes.
we show that we feel that too without actually feeling it?
Oh man, you really nailed it there, though. So so accurately depicts the situation that we're facing, you know, and I think that ties in with the the conversation about why the double breathing, because I don't want to complicate the teaching. I don't want people who come to me to try to empower themselves to improve their relationships or enhance their sex life, or I put that title on the book because I knew that that would capture attention.
Hmm.
It wasn't like I was trying to sell sex or anything like that. I was like, I mean, yes, sex sells, we know
Hmm.
that. But what I'm trying to sell is, can we improve our relationships to ourselves so that we can have more positive uh, personal relationships, with others? And that's really the point of the book, is to support people who are trying to do a good thing and they are seeking, many people are seeking legitimately, but there's a lot of what I feel is like kind of the runaround and the hey, like, sign up for my program and like we'll do this thing. And it's like, what if I just give you a really simple effective tool that you can do right now, and the book costs $10 or whatever, and then like, great, take it and run with it. I hope more people do that. It's like, it should be free, but we don't value things that are free.
Right.
So
Right. Well, I really enjoyed that. I assumed when you were going to have me do like two inhales, two exhales, that or like sniff through the nose and then exhale through. I assumed that there was going to be some sort of like discomfort in that, but
hmm.
there wasn't any, which was kind of
Hmm.
cool. Because sometimes I get a little uncomfortable with breath work. Not that
Yeah.
that would be a reason not to do it, but it does. It can feel like you're kind of out of control, and oh my god, do I have to keep breathing this way? And I feel sort of, So I appreciated that it was. It actually felt very comfortable. Do you have like a comfortable experience? Are there times when it's a little confrontational or?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you do it enough. I mean, take anything that you do enough
Mhm.
is bound to become confrontational after a certain point. And I think that's kind of the way that it's set up. If you have a legitimate practice that you're using to help you grow and become a better human being, you're kind of creating a container with the guarantee that if you stay in the container, you're going to confront some things. Like, that's sort of the idea of submitting yourself to a practice. And so yeah, there are times where it's confrontational for me, and I think, as I was saying earlier, why I've stuck with this practice over the past 7 years is because um, the inner dimension starts to open up, the subtlety of it starts to open up more and more. And so even though it looks the same on the outside, it is a completely different practice today than it was when I first
Mm,
started doing it.
mm,
And and it continues to give me new insights and new juice. There's new juice to squeeze.
mm,
And um, and you can, of course, depending on your personal cycle, especially for women, having a cycle, there are times where you're more chemically prepared for intensity,
mm,
and there are times when you're not as chemically prepared for
mhm,
intensity. And so I think that it's important to understand the cyclical nature of things too. Men also have a similar, not the same, but similar pattern. And
mhm.
so, and what I mean by that, and like the uh, yeah, what I mean by that is you can increase the intensity through which you engage with the technique depending on where you are personally. But
Mhm.
the idea is the technique remains the technique. You don't shy away from it. It just is like a structure to fall back on.
Hmm. Do you, when you say so you do this every day? Is that what you mean by daily? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is, does that ever feel? like, are there days where you actually like have ever not been able to physically? And is there like a self-forgiveness there? Or like how do you kind of approach that aspect of your practice? I'm curious.
I get what you're saying. I'm kind of extreme about
Okay.
certain things.
It's good you're honest.
Yeah, I'm kind of extreme, and I mean, there's been days where I've missed it. They're very few, and
Hmm.
like if I didn't do it one day, then the it there's like, oh, okay, like it happened. I don't really even think about it. It's
Hmm.
like brushing my teeth. Like there's days where you might, for whatever reason, not have your toothbrush and you have to brush with your finger, or you might not even be able to brush your teeth, and things happen. And it's not like I'm like laying in bed at night and I'm like, dang it, I didn't brush my teeth. Like, how am I gonna make up for that? So I guess the idea that I'm wanting to convey, and this is something I share with my students, is you want to get to a point with your spiritual practice that it is as normal as every other daily thing that you would do just to take care of yourself.
Hmm.
Because it's appalling that we separate spirituality from normal life. It's like, where did that start to happen? The two are inseparable if it is truly spiritual, and it's like the extraordinary is in the ordinary and sacred in the mundane. You're like, yeah, I think you understand too what I'm referring to. And so that's sort of the attitude. It's like, oh, you missed a day. Okay, if you miss a day brushing your teeth, what happens the next day? You hopefully brush your teeth.
That's so interesting that you use the toothbrushing example because one, I've heard that before, but two, like I cannot imagine not brushing my teeth. I mean, I brush my teeth like three, four, sometimes five. I'm extreme about brushing my teeth. The idea of
Well,
not, I'm like, that time, I mean, I can't even think of a time when I have not brushed my
well, I
teeth.
can't think of a time that I haven't done the double breathing.
Right, right.
It's sort of the
Yeah.
same. But imagine if one, no one ever taught you how to brush your teeth, and two, they gave you a really shitty tool to do it.
Mm,
And you were like, it was like painful, and you're like,
mm.
fuck, I really don't want to brush my teeth today.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what's happening with like the whole blowing up of breath work. Is like
Mm,
there's these huge breath work modalities, holotropic breath, I mean, you name it. There's all these different names to the transformational breath work, but it's like, who's gonna get up in the morning and do that by themselves,
mm,
not in a container with like
mm,
people, and sage and all this stuff. It's like transformation happens in the secret, quiet moment of the morning before you approach your day. And it's between you, and that's it. You can't pay money for it. You can't learn it in a workshop. It's like that 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 or an hour or however much time you dedicate to before the world happens.
mm.
That's where the magic is. And if you can add a little bit of a technique that actually produces a result, a chemical change in your body, then yeah, you're starting to move in a good direction, I think.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I was just thinking as you were saying that, like, I think when people have, when people hear about maybe doing like a daily practice or whatever, it does tend to seem like this really time intensive, like, my gosh, if I miss a day, I should like self-flagellate, like,
Right. Right. Oh my gosh, totally.
yeah, which is sort of defeating. Definitely defeats the purpose in a sense.
It
And
does.
yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
creates a weird. But it's funny because I've heard that toothbrush metaphor, but I don't think it ever really registered like it did when you were describing it. Just how normal something like that could become
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
someone. Like when I was doing Kundalini yoga, it was part of my daily practice because if I didn't do it, then I was bad, and I was not, you know, I was not upholding my oath to myself or to my community or,
Right.
um, I deserved all of the problems that I would have during that day when I didn't do my practice, those sorts of things. And that's not the energy
Mhm.
of self-care that you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great topic, self-care. It's like, s- sometimes I see those like the memes. It's like sometimes self-care is having ice cream and watching Netflix. And I'm just like, really? Is that actually caring for yourself? Like, really, if you're honest about that? I mean, sure, I have those nights too.
Yeah.
Definitely, I'm a human being. I do that. But I don't think that that's actually self-care. I think that's me just like I need to distract myself and numb out and like
Yeah.
I'm fully honest with myself. I'm real about it. There is forgiveness in it, but it's like it's what I'm doing. I'm just calling it like it is.
Yeah.
And like an actual self-care practice on that night, if we're using that example, might be taking a bath and listening to some music and like chilling out, like really like softening, and I think we've lost the art of subtlety in our culture. And instead of softening, we just numb. We just desensitize. And like that's another aspect that I want to get across in the book is like if you want to become a great lover, learn how to feel. Learn how to listen to your body, to what's happening inside of you. And the kumbhaka, the breath retention, which is a big part of yogic breathing, is all about learning how to feel and be aware of the energy. Like what I instructed you when you held the breath in, it's like, you just went through a process to generate energy, to move energy in the body. And if you can just hold that for a moment, you're holding space for more life. And that allows you to feel deeper, to not run away from feeling. That's something that we do. We feel too much and then we run away from it. I'm saying we, but I'm like referring to what's sort of a generalization, but I think you know what I mean.
That's a great point about our kind of what would you call it? Distorted sense of what self-care can be, or even self-love. I actually almost made a podcast about this in terms of like the body positivity movement, because I think that's really fascinating. I definitely
It
think everyone should
is.
love their body, but like, are you really loving your body if you're binge eating? Like, is that really love? You know?
Totally. I'm with say no
Um,
more.
yeah. So, I mean, I think that we get these like what trending concepts or like buzzwords, like self-care, self-love, love your body or whatever, but we haven't actually done the work to feel what that actually feels like. It comes back to like, what can I wear? What can I, what can I eat to show you that that I'm feeling this without
Without,
actually feeling it.
I mean, it's like I think just generally, if I'm speaking about like most human beings, myself included, it's really helpful for me just to do some hard shit, you know? And I don't mean like physically hard, I mean like the thing I don't want to do. It's good to do that sometimes. Not like all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
You force yourself, don't beat yourself on the back, but like to get into a place in your own sort of consciousness or your own awareness where like doing something that might seem impossible doesn't seem so impossible. Like if I told someone like, "Hey, just skip dinner," and like they're like, "No way, I can't. I could never skip a meal." I'm like, your reaction to even giving up something is causing you more trouble,
Yeah.
and I think just the ability to just say like, yeah, I can endure a little bit, no big deal. It's not like I'm like hardcore, it's not extreme, but to be able to endure a little bit, I think it's a good thing. And I think that allows us to deepen into subtlety as well, because then we get to like those doorways where we have to kind of we're bumping up against like the edge of our ego, and the ego's like, no, go back. If you don't go back, you're gonna die. And it's like, you're not gonna die. Ice water's not gonna kill anybody. Taking a cold shower is not gonna kill anybody. it's just going to challenge you a little bit, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking about the when you said the dinner thing. I remember listening to the statistic that more if people were given the option between changing their diet or changing their religion, like religion was the one that was the most. Um, yeah, isn't
That's
that crazy?
hilarious. That's crazy.
Crazy.
Well, diet has become a form of religion for many
That's
people.
true. I wonder if it's kind of evolved and and they're like,
Pseudo
well, neither
religion.
because I am now vegan by religion or keto by religion. Yeah.
It's so true, and it is interesting, It's the way the world has been created for us to, yeah,
Yeah.
formulate our beliefs around things and then buy into them so deeply.
Yeah. So are you doing like live teaching while you're in Costa Rica? Are you or what are you doing in Costa Rica? May I
What
ask?
am I doing in Costa
Yeah.
Rica? Living my best life.
Yeah.
No, I had a yoga school in Chandler, Arizona for several years,
Okay.
and which I met you in Phoenix
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
I to one of your concerts, which was amazing. Hallelujah, amen. Like I listened to that the other day. I was like, such a good song. Um, yeah, and but I moved down here because I was ready to really deepen my own practice, like number one, and I felt like being immersed in nature like was kind of imperative for that. Like I was, this was during COVID too. This was during the
Mm,
pandemic,
okay.
and I was just seeing what was happening in the world and feeling it, and I felt like the best thing I could do for the health of of not just my own health but the health of the whole thing was like kind of go isolate in the jungle, and what ended up happening was there's a lot of amazing growth opportunities, and my path as a sacred musician opened up, and I started to really get into my music, and because I kind of had to step away from teaching so much to grow as a teacher, and I
Mm,
had to go back into my own laboratory and practice a lot without interfacing with students so much. And so the past 2 years that I've been here, I moved here in October, so almost 2 years ago exactly.
mm,
um, it's just been a really big, expansive path of growth, of getting more into writing, creating retreats, so like deeper dive containers where people can really immerse themselves in the yoga experience and get a sense for what I'm talking about. Um, and then another really big perk is that's helped me like get the chutzpah, to launch my first yoga teacher training, which has been like a
mm.
huge like, vision of mine for years. I'm like, I just haven't done it, and so finally I'm just like, all right, we're doing a yoga teacher training and it's happening. And so it's together. It's being launched in January is the start date.
Cool. So can people sign up for that now? Is that open?
Applications are open until October 15th. So it's
Cool.
open now, and I'm inviting in like just the right people. It's really important that I get the right crew together for this, and so there's an application and process and an interview process, and it's going to be pretty involved. So I'm
Oh,
really really
cool.
looking forward to it.
It sounds like it's might be you're trying to keep it kind of a small group.
I'm open for 12, and then I'm going to give a couple scholarships. So
Okay.
it's and if anybody's listening, I don't know if you want to throw that in the notes, but keepersoftheearth.co is where you can find out more information.
Yeah, I definitely keepers of the earth.co. I will definitely put all the your links in the podcast description notes so people can click on those and find out more about you.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to share while we're on the podcast? Is there something we missed?
I think the number one thing that I'm like my main message, I guess, like if I were to distill like what Grant wants to get across to the world, it's like just to really learn as individuals how to truly empower ourselves and what that even means, because there's the whole movement of like taking our power back and this sort of thing, and it's like, yeah, but there's even a deeper process to that, and it's like, so how do we empower ourselves and get in alignment with nature, with life, with each other, because becoming empowered isn't about taking anything from you. It's
Mm-hmm.
very much the opposite of that. It's about giving everything. And by empowering yourself, your whole community, all of your relationships, prana just starts flowing. The life force the intelligence of life starts to do what it's designed to do. And that is what I want to help create, is the environments where that can happen. And to do everything I can to do that for myself too, of course.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any retreats coming up as well?
There is, so I'll be in Arizona November 17th to the end of November. Um, oh, let me back up. I have a couples retreat. If one couple is listening and they want to come to Costa Rica, that's November 10th to the 13th. It's a couples retreat with my partner and I that we're leading. There's only spot for one more couple. And then there's a small mini retreat weekend happening at my yoga school in Chandler. And then the yoga teacher training starts in January. So it's like November, I get a month off, and then 21 days of immersion and learning. It's gonna
Wow.
be
And
cool.
that's on site. They're all coming to Costa Rica?
Yeah, it's a 21-day on-site immersion.
Nice.
Yes. You should
Yeah.
totally come. Come on down. You would have such a good
I
time.
can I bring my two kids?
Maybe, I don't know. It's
We'll see. We'll talk.
we'll
What's your website and how can people get in touch with you?
So I'm going to direct people to the keepersoftheearth.co website for the yoga school. And then if they want to know more about me, grantifflander.com.
Cool. I've always been curious, actually, seeing your last name. What's the origin of Ifflander?
I went to Poland to figure this out. It's actually German, but at the time, so I went to the birthplace of my great great grandfather, which was a town in what is modern day Poland
Okay.
called Elbląg was the town name that I went to. But 100 years ago, when he was born, it was called Elbing, and it was in Germany. But because of World War I, changed the borders, and so I went on this whole wild goose chase, took a train from Germany to this random little village, and then met this woman who actually could read the birth chart because the names had changed. And she was like, yeah, this is the town. And like, she took me on this like crazy. And then I went to this old German graveyard in the middle of the forest. And like, it was a really
Wow.
cool experience, let me tell you. It was like deep spiritual journey, and like I didn't
Wow.
have a connection to my ancestors before that, and now I feel like they're like kind of like angels on my shoulder. It sounds weird, but it really feels that way now.
No, I get that. I had a similar experience actually, because I live in Washington. That's where my mom's family's from, and I'd never really explored it much, or really been here before I moved here. And I got to go where my parents, or my parents, my mom and my uncle would go for the summer, and he showed me around, and like this was their childhood home and stuff. I totally get that. I wouldn't have assumed it would be that powerful, but
Mm.
yeah, going back to where your ancestors are from is pretty cool.
I mean, the memory is stored in the DNA.
Yeah.
DNA records information, and that's not made up. That's like actually happening. And I don't know, I can't say what is the result of that, but I felt it, and
Yeah.
it felt like I did a good thing, Did it feel like you did a good thing, like doing it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's
There's
like,
this great book that's about this guy. He's a Jewish man from New York or from the States somewhere, but he wants to go and like kind of do a similar thing for you. His ancestors were in Auschwitz, and so he does this whole like, it's such a funny book. I can't remember. It's like everything lights up, or everything is illuminated. Everything is illuminated. It's such a wonderful book. I remember reading, but that's what reminded me of it, because he also goes to Poland and he's vegetarian, so it's really funny. It's like,
Perfect.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Grant Ifflander. GrantIfflander.com and keepersoftheearth.co. You can get in touch with him. And yeah, we will see you in the next episode, and have a wonderful day. All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into the podcast. Please remember to like, rate, subscribe, whatever your service offers you as a way to engage and let others know that you're enjoying it, so it gets shared with more people.